For millennia, money was something you could hold in your hand. It was cattle, sacks of grain, bars of salt, or shiny shells. To be rich meant you needed piles of physical stuff. Today, the wealthiest people on Earth own numbers and computers, and the money in your bank account is an electronic promise. This transformation from physical objects to abstract guarantees didn't happen by accident. It began with a revolutionary idea from a forgotten kingdom, an idea that split the history of money in two. It was the moment a king decided his word was worth more than gold itself. This is the lore of money. We explore how money shapes history, power, and society. Subscribe for more. Before we trace the evolution of the world's first coins, you need to understand why monetary systems change at all. Systems don't evolve randomly. They change when they become too slow, too inconvenient, or when a new technology makes a better system possible. More often, they change because a powerful entity like a state needs to solve a very big problem, like funding a war or building an empire. Every major transition in the history of money follows this pattern. An old system reaches its limits, and a new one is invented not for the people, but for the rulers. This story starts in a world where money existed, but the coin did not. And the difference between those two things changed everything. Let's start at the beginning. In the 7th century before the Common Era, the Kingdom of Lydia, located in modern-day Turkey, was a vibrant hub of commerce. It sat at the crossroads of major trade routes, connecting the seafaring Greeks with the vast empires of the Middle East. But the economy here and across the ancient world ran on a system that feels completely alien to us today. It was not a world of simple barter, where a farmer trades 3 chickens for a pair of shoes. This was a sophisticated economy based on weighed precious metals. For thousands of years, civilizations like the Hittites and Assyrians had conducted large-scale trade using precise weights of gold, silver, and copper. This was money, but it was money without currency. Imagine you are a Lydian merchant trying to buy a shipment of olive oil. The seller agrees on a price of 20 shekels of silver. You don't pull out 20 silver coins. Instead, you take out a piece of silver, maybe an ingot, a bracelet, or even a broken piece of a statue. You place a set of scales on the table, along with a set of standardized weights. Then you start cutting. You chip off pieces of your silver, placing them on the scale until the weight is exactly right. Any leftover fragments, known as Hacksilber or hacked silver, would be saved for the next transaction. Every single purchase, big or small, required this cumbersome ritual of weighing and verifying. And it wasn't just about weight. You also had to verify the purity of the metal. Merchants carried a touchstone, a piece of black slate, to rub the metal against and check its quality. This process was slow, inefficient, and created constant friction in the economy. In this world, trust was not placed in a government or a bank because those institutions didn't guarantee money. Instead, trust was institutionalized in temples and palaces. These were the only places with the authority and the resources to refine precious metals and certify their purity. A temple's divine authority effectively backed the value of the metal stored within its vaults. This is a critical piece of the puzzle, because the first coins ever discovered were not found in the ruins of a marketplace. They were found buried beneath the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. In a hoard of 93 of the world's earliest coins, they were deposited as offerings to the gods, placed alongside jewelry and other valuables. This tells us something profound. Coinage didn't begin in the world of retail. It began in the world of religion and power. The Lydian kings saw that people already trusted the temple to guarantee the value of metal, and they realized they could take that function for themselves. They could replace the temple's divine guarantee with the king's royal guarantee. The first phase of this revolution is attributed to King Alyattes, who ruled Lydia from around 619 to 560 BCE. The raw material for his experiment was a unique metal called electrum, a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver. It was abundant in the region, washed down from the mountains and panned from the sands of the Pactolus River, which flowed right through the Lydian capital of Sardis. But this convenient metal had a fatal flaw, what historians call the Electrum Problem. The natural alloy was inconsistent. One nugget might be 70% gold, while another of the exact same weight might be only 30% gold. This made it a terrible form of money because 2 identical-looking pieces could have wildly different intrinsic values. The Lydians solved this problem with a brilliant and deceptive trick. Metallurgists working for the king didn't just stamp the raw electrum nuggets. They developed a process to refine the metal, adding more silver and a little copper to create a standardized uniform alloy. Analysis of these first coins shows they consistently contain about 54% gold and 44% silver. This was a revolutionary act. It meant that a merchant no longer had to test the purity of the metal because every coin stamped with the king's mark was guaranteed to be the same. This also gave the state its first opportunity for profit. The king could take in 1 kilogram of high-grade natural electrum from taxes, melt it down, stretch it with cheaper silver, and mint more than a kilogram of official coins. This profit, the difference between the face value of a coin and its production cost, is called seigniorage, and it was invented right here. Of course, this only works if the king's authority is strong enough to force everyone to accept the coin at its official value. And the king's authority was stamped right on the front. The first coins featured the roaring head of a lion, the royal symbol of the Lydian dynasty. This wasn't just decoration, it was the king's personal guarantee of the coin's weight and alloy. The back of the coin had one or more sunken square shapes. These weren't a design, but a technical artifact. The mark left by the punch used to hammer the metal into the lion die. What's more, this was not a single token, but a complete monetary system. The Lydians minted a standard coin called a stater, which weighed about 14 grams, and then created a whole family of smaller coins based on fractions. There was a 1/3 stater, a 1/6 stater, and even a tiny 1/96 stater. This proves the system was meticulously planned from the very beginning to handle payments of all sizes. The Lydian state had created a true currency. So why did they invent it? The popular story is that coins were invented to make life easier for merchants in the marketplace. It sounds nice, but the evidence tells a different story. This was a top-down revolution, driven by the needs of the state. Archaeologists excavating Sardis have found these valuable stater coins are almost never located in the ruins of ancient shops. They are found in hoards, suggesting they were held by the wealthy elite, not used for daily shopping. So if not for trade, then what was the killer application for coinage? The most compelling theory is war. The Lydian kings were expanding their empire, and to do that, they hired large armies of foreign mercenaries, mostly Greeks from the nearby Ionian coast. Paying a massive professional army is a logistical nightmare. You can't pay them in land or livestock while they are on a military campaign. But coins were the perfect solution. They were standardized, portable, durable, and held a high value in a small package. A single stater was worth about a month's wages for a soldier. This theory neatly explains why the first coins were high denomination, and why the idea of coinage spread so rapidly to the Greek cities where these mercenaries came from. Coinage was also a revolutionary tool for running the state. It simplified the collection of taxes and fines. A treasury filled with countable coins is far more efficient than one filled with grain and jars of oil. This new monetized wealth allowed the Lydian kings to fund ambitious projects, like the magnificent Temple of Artemis. The coin, therefore, was not a tool of the market. It was a tool of the palace, designed to pay soldiers and manage the empire. But the system King Alyattes created was still flawed. Despite the standardized alloy, electrum was a confusing metal. Its value was still difficult for outsiders to judge because it was a mix of gold and silver. This limited its acceptance in the international trade. It fell to Alyattes' son, King Croesus, to perfect the system. His name would become legendary, synonymous with immense wealth, and for good reason. His solution was an act of pure financial genius that would set the standard for the next 2,000 years. Croesus abandoned electrum entirely. Instead, he became the first ruler in history to issue separate, state-guaranteed coins made of pure gold and pure silver. This leap was made possible by a technological breakthrough. Archaeologists in Sardis have unearthed the Lydian royal refinery, full of ceramic pots and chemical waste that prove they had mastered the complex process of separating gold and silver from electrum. With this technology, Croesus created the world's first bimetallic monetary system. He updated the design on the coins to a new royal emblem, the facing heads of a lion and a bull. He minted pure gold coins and pure silver coins in various sizes, but the true masterstroke was creating a fixed, state-guaranteed exchange rate between the two metals. This turned money from just stamped metal into a true unit of account. The system was brilliant in its simplicity. After some adjustments, Croesus issued a new, lighter gold stater that weighed about 8.1 grams. This wasn't an arbitrary change. He did it to create a clean, simple exchange ratio. One of his new light gold staters was officially worth exactly 10 of his silver staters. This was no longer just about guaranteeing the metal in a coin. This was the state actively managing monetary policy, defining the value of gold in relation to silver. This system was so successful that when the Persians conquered Lydia in 546 BCE, these exact coins were found with the casualties of the city's final battle, proving they were in wide circulation. King Croesus had created the perfect financial tool for an empire. The invention of coinage spread from Lydia like wildfire, but it traveled down two very different paths. The first path led across the Aegean Sea to the Greek city-states. The Greeks, especially the Ionians who had served as Lydian mercenaries, adopted the technology of making stamped metal coins. But they adapted it for their own unique political and economic needs. While the Lydians invented coins for the state, the Greeks perfected them for the people. Greek cities like Ephesus, Miletus, and Aegina began minting their own coins with their own city emblems. More importantly, they were the first to mint large quantities of small-denomination silver coins, like drachms and obols, specifically designed for everyday retail transactions in the marketplace. The Lydian killer app was state finance, the Greek killer app was commerce. The second path of inheritance was not adaptation, but direct adoption. When Cyrus the Great and the Persian Empire conquered Lydia, they didn't destroy its financial system. They took it over. The Persian kings recognized the power of what Croesus had built. For a time, they continued minting the Lydian lion and bull coins at the royal mint in Sardis. Then, under King Darius I, they reformed the system. They replaced the Lydian design with an image of the Persian king, but they kept the Lydian standard. The new Persian gold coin, the daric, was based on the light gold stater of Croesus. The new silver coin, the siglos, was based on the Lydian silver standard. This Persian currency, a direct descendant of the Lydian system, became the world's first truly international currency, used across a massive empire. So, from a single innovation in a small kingdom, the concept of money was forever changed. It evolved from weighing trusted metals to trusting the state's guarantee stamped upon that metal. Every transformation along the way seemed impossible before it happened. A world without scales for every transaction, a world where the king's word set the value of gold against silver, a world with money small enough to buy bread in the market. Each of these was a revolution. They were wrong every time. So what's the next transformation? We live in an era where money is rapidly dematerializing, becoming pure data on a ledger. The fundamental principles invented by the Lydians, a state guarantee, a standardized unit of account, and a system for state finance, still underpin our entire financial world. But new technologies are challenging every one of those principles. Maybe the future is a world of decentralized digital currencies. Maybe it is a world of state-controlled digital currencies. But one thing history makes clear: the system we have now won't last forever. Nothing ever does. The question isn't whether money will evolve again. The question is whether you'll understand the change before it happens or after. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.